Okay, so I will talk about a topic of CSS called grid. It's a new system that will make us think in two dimensions because the way that we used to do that is only in one dimension, like thinking about organizing our styles or our elements in just columns or rows. With the grid system, you are able to think in two dimensions and at the same time. So you can like position a specific element into a specific column and a specific row. I will explain this later. So this is the way that it used to be, like with columns or with rows, like organized horizontally or vertically. Now you with this system you can like think about a grid and organizing your elements in that grid. And like the way we used to organize that is in the beginnings it was through tables. Then we introduced the floats with the clear fix to to clean the floats. Then we introduced inline blocks, and finally, and that's why I put like an asterisk, like an exception, because Flexbox it's been doing a great job in the styling, when in the styling, and we can use Flexbox and Grid nicely. They can be combined and work well. So the browser support, as everybody knows, Internet Explorer is the only like problem, but it has support, but in some versions is not completely supported. If you want to know the full support, you can go to Can I Use, and there you can find the complete support for Internet Explorer. But the rest of the browsers are supporting the grid system. Well, one sec. First, we need to understand how are we going to define a grid, and this is done by the parent. In the parent container, we're going to specify a property called display grid, who's gonna enable the grid system, and we need to create a template for the columns that we will have and the rows that we will have in our grid. So in this case, I created a grid of 3 columns and 3 rows. What does it mean, this effort unity? It means that it's like a fraction. It's a new measure for the grid system. So it says 1 fraction of the whole grid, 2 fractions of the whole grid, and 1 fraction of the whole grid. So in this way, we define the parent and its grid. So once we've done that, we can go to the child element that we want to position, and we can say, oh, I forgot to say something. The way we number the lines on the grid are like this. In the columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, and in the rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So when we are on the child element, we want to position that element saying grid column, the beginning line and the end line. The beginning line on the row and the end line on the row. So that's why this element is positioned right here. There are other techniques, but I'm explaining like the basic ones to start like playing a little bit with CSS Grid. Those are the basics. With that, we can start playing and working with CSS Grid. So I want to do a simple exercise. And let's think that we want to build this shelf of monsters, right? So this is the design that we want to achieve. And the way that we can approach this design is by identifying the grid in the design. So I already did that here. So that's why if we find a row here, we have to draw the complete line, the whole line. to start like identifying the grid. So, and then we can start thinking about like the measurements. We can do it with pixels, with percentages, and with frames, with any measurement unit that you already know. But one of the recommended ones, one is the fraction unit. So by eye, we can say that this is one frame, 2 frames, because it's the same measure that this one, and 3 frames. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and we have 1, 2, 3 columns, right? Sorry for being for talking so fast. Do you have any questions there?
So do you know if we can like combine fractions with pixels or
Yeah,
percentage or?
yeah. You can combine any measure, so you can say like 10 pixels and one fraction of the remaining space, right?
Great.
You can say 10 pixels, one fraction, 20 pixels, and 3 fractions, and
Okay.
it's going to do the math for
Awesome.
us. When you use pixels, it's really useful because you're going to create like a constraint uh, uh, row or column, so that row will not grow or shrink once the grid starts to grow or shrink. It's going to maintain its pixels.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Um, okay, so this is our goal, right? So in here I created the exercise. So our challenge is to organize the stack of characters presented down below into the shelf based on the given design. Please use the CSS grid technique to achieve this task. So I've created these 6 monsters. I named them with the number, but with a literal variation: 1, 2, 3 man, fork, fire, and zigzag. So our goal is to place these characters into the shelf based on this design, right? So if we think the first thing that we need to do is to position them inside the shelf, inside their parent. So I already have here the characters inside the parent, right? This is my grid shelf, and I have the characters here, and I just put them inside the shelf. So this is how it looks right now. They are like in a displaying block, right? So the first step is to, in the shelf, say to the parent that will be our shelf, say that it will behave like a grid. That's the first step. So that's why it starts like taking the parent and creating a grid, and that's why all the elements stretch to fill their parent, right? And the second step is to create the template of columns and rows. We already know that we have, let's talk about columns: 1 FR, 2 frames, 2 fractions, and 4 fractions. I have here the columns: 1, 2, 3, 1 fraction, 2 fraction, and 4 fractions. The way it's, because we just set the columns, it's going to behave like there are 3 columns, and we are going to complete the space with another row automatically, because we have 6 elements. Now let's set up the rows. The rows are going to be 1 frame, 2 frames, and 3 frames. So 4 rows. And this is the initial behavior. Because we have more like cells here, but it's just filling the 6 elements by the default behavior. Any questions there? Nope.
No, for now.
Okay. And now the way that we're going to start positioning these elements is by one, right? So let's start by one. One, it's gonna start in the line 1. I'm gonna think in the column. Line 1 and ends in the line 2. And in the row, starts in the line 1 and ends in the line 2. So I already have done that here. So starts column 1, 2, row 1, 2. Line 1, 2, row 1, 2. So we're going good there. Tuto, it's going to work to be starts from the line 2 in the column and ends in the line 4 in the column. And in the row starts in the line 1 and ends in the line 3. So let's do that for the character 2, who's tuto, and there it is, right? So we can still keep going. Oh, give me one sec. Sorry. It's sorry. Give me one second. My keyboard. Miércoles.
Te quedo sin pila.
Yeah. Okay. We can keep going like that and start positioning all the elements on the grid. So I'm going to skip that step just for a sake of time.
Yeah, let's do it all at once.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there it is, right? Now we have all our elements positioned as described in our design, right? But there's something missing here. Do you see these gaps, like for the shell? We can create that with our grid system. There is a property in the parent called grid gap. And with this property, we can give like space between the cells. And there it is. Okay, so this is one of the approach to achieve the task, but I want to teach you another approach that is really interesting because it's gonna give us more control over our grid, and it's called grid template areas, right? So I'm going to uncomment this one. And we know that we have this template, right? 3 columns and 4 rows. So we're going to create a template area for each element of our design. So we have 1, 2, 3, fire, fork, and zigzag. So I want 1 to be in the first square, in the first cell. I want 2 to fill these 4 cells. I want 3 to fill these 3 cells, these 3. Here are 3 cells. And I want fire to be in this cell, sig in this cell, and fork in these 2 cells, right? We can't see that here, but we can like inspect that. Let me show you. We go here and we go to the grid shelf. We can, when we put our mouse over the grid shelf, over the parent, we can see our grid, our defined grid. So if you see, those are the spaces that we were talking about later in these grid template areas, right? So I will comment this approach. And the way that we use this new approach with template areas is by saying to the child what's going to be the area that he will occupy or fill. So yep.
It's like naming. Yeah, it's like giving a name to one to a child, right?
Exactly. You're saying that tuto it's gonna fill. Tuto is an area, and tuto it's gonna be on this cell, on this cell, on this cell, and on this cell, right? So when you go to the child, you will say, I want this element to fill the area that it's called tuto, for example.
Okay.
Tuto, and tuto is here. What's nice about this? That we can start controlling our elements by their parent, not by the child, but by their parent. And we can do something like this. For example, I can go. I want it to be here. Tuto can be like this because it's not a square. So I need to fix that. So I want fire to be here. And now I've changed the design just by changing the template areas. Right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's cool because we can like start controlling this on the, for example, in the media queries. When we go to another screen size, we can change the design.
Yeah,
That's
and we can move things around, right?
Yeah, you can
Change
move
position of things.
Yeah, you can move one here and seek here. Seek? Sorry. Seek. Yeah, something like this. And you
Okay.
didn't need to do anything else.
It doesn't allow you to repeat, right?
No, because it needs to feel like a rectangle of the grid.
Yeah, but for example, if you change the one that you have for example, Thig, it will not repeat Thig twice, right?
No, twice no.
Okay.
I will need to investigate if it's possible to have like two characters called Wani and create two elements. I will investigate that and let you know if it's possible.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's just,
It's interesting, yeah.
yeah.
That maybe it's like an ID. So maybe we can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will investigate and I'll let you know. Also, you can create empty spaces by putting up a dot.
Oh, great.
So you don't need to fill every cell. So why this is cool? Because give me 1 second. I will go back to our first design. Here it is. Okay. Because if you think this shelf like a website or application or whatever, this could be like a gallery, this could be the logo or user section, this could be an app bar, this could be a news section, this could be an events section, and this could be a news highlight, for example. And we can start playing with these positions just by playing with the parent or with this approach, and it's really cool. So I just wanted to highlight that. I don't know if you have any questions there. Okay.
Amazing how you explain this. Super easy.
And finally, I want to introduce a final topic of a little advanced topic, but it's just for letting you know how it behaves. So I will say that in this moment, the character character is feeling the 100% of the width and of the height, right? So I will override that with the width of 50% and the height of 50%, right? Why I'm doing this? Because I want you to look at the grid. So they are feeling just the 50% of their defined areas, right? But we can control where they are going to be like positioned by three properties, in fact, that are called grid, align items that will position the items vertically. So I will say that I want to align them at the end, not at the top, and they will be aligned at the end, right? Of each defined area.
Okay. So you could probably like easily center them or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. You could do align end, align start. That it's be default behavior. Start, and you could say center, and they will be centered vertically on their defined area. If you want to do that horizontally, you can say justify items and say I want them to be on the end of their defined area. And if you look, they are at the end.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
And you can also say center, right? So this is the center. They are on the center vertically and horizontally of their defined areas. But there is a shortcut called place items, sorry, that you can do both at the same time. So you can say place items center, and it's gonna behave the same way that we were controlling align and justify. And for a final like touch, we can say no, but I want the fork to be aligned at the end, to be placed in the right bottom corner. So I can do that by saying character, by selecting the item, the child. Character fork is the fork item. For to be aligned self end, and he will move at the end vertically,
Oh, okay.
and justify self.
So items, it's a property you put on parent to align
Yeah.
child, and self it's to align itself. Okay. Yeah,
Yes, exactly,
makes sense.
exactly. Um, justify self, I want to say, and we have also the property here,
The
place self
place self.
and there it is. We have our elements positioned how we want it.
Great.
And
It's very flexible.
Yeah, makes
great.
really easy works with the spaces of the page.
Maybe
Yeah.
Castaño wants to start working with designs and CSS right now.
Yes, of course.
Guys, it's pure CSS, no JS library. That's
Exactly.
amazing.
Yes.
Pure CSS.
And one of my advices would be that we can combine the grid with the Flexbox 6 system, because there are some times that we have like a design or a section that is just horizontal, so we don't need to use the grid. So make use of the grid for designs that need it. For example, as I was saying later, if we think like a whole website where our designer said, this is the gallery, this is the user section, navigation bar, news, events, and new highlights. Here we can use the grid, and then inside we can start like playing with grid or flexbox. We need to be like practical about using this technique.
Yeah, like no overuse it, like use it when there's no need for it.
Exactly. Yes.
Do you know about performance? Did you read something about how performant it is?
Oh no, I missed that. Maybe I
No, no,
need.
that's fine. It's just because now I was wondering like how performant should it be.
Okay.
Probably it depends on the browsers and on the implementations, but I don't know. It's just something that I was wondering right now.
No, but it's cool. I'm going to read a little bit about that too.
Great.
And I think that's it for today's topic. Thanks.
Genial, Gonzalo.
Good.
Buenísimo.
Great
Yeah.
job, Gonzalo.